All right, guys, joining us tonight, we have former ECW Tag Team Champion, former WWE wrestler. Remember, it's not boring, it's Doring. We have none other than Danny Doring. Danny, how's it going?
It's going good, guys. Thanks for having me. Again, I got to apologize for last time we had to set up. I'm just a human man. I had baby twins, and I sleep like maybe 2 hours at a stretch. So I was waiting up and passed right out. So I apologies once again.
Not a problem, and congratulations again. Um,
Thank you.
Pretty much, you're basically. It's been a few months since you were at Dreamer's House of Hardcore number 7. What fans may not know, however, is that you were a student in the original House of Hardcore school. Your trainers were Taz, Bubba Ray, and Perry Saturn, among others. How hard was the training back then for wrestling?
I mean, some would say the crown jewel of the House of Hardcore. That's where I'd go with it. Um, but I mean, it was every bit as hard as. I would like to say it was like the last of the throwback schools. I mean, Taz and Perry didn't really. I don't think they really cared about making the school making money. Obviously, out of the 3 or 4 years it was open, there was only 4 graduates, and I mean there was a lot of people that came in, didn't even make it a day, and it was tough, man. It was it was like an hour of training, maybe anywhere between, if we were lucky on a good day, 30 minutes to an hour of cardio. And then we did what was called shark bait, which was whoever happened to be there, be it Perry, Taz, Bubba, Tommy, Guido. If there was Cronus, sometimes if there were 7 people there, you'd have to be in the ring with 5 of them, 5 minutes with each of them without tagging out after all that. So certain days was rough, man. I would take a couple trains. I would take a couple trains in and out of the city just to make it there, because the driving there was impossible. So I just was too beat up.
All right. Now, after graduating from House of Hardcore in '97, did you feel like you were ready for the world of professional wrestling, like given the amount of training you had, or do you feel like you could have used more?
Um, I felt in comparison to the training I had, I was ready at probably 5 or 6 months, physically. Mentally, my first taste of it, which was good, was November '96 when Taz had standoff with Sabu. We were in Team Taz, and hearing that crowd pretty much psyched a lot of us out. We weren't really, we were like, wow, that was pretty much incredible. But the training wise, I was ready to go. It was putting it all together. It took a little bit longer because we didn't do a lot of. We watched a lot of film, but we were too green, I guess would be a good word, or inexperienced to pick up on ring psychology. That's something you really have to, it's a hands-on training thing more than anything, in front of a crowd to call audibles and such. So that took a little while to pick up. But physically, I felt ready about halfway through the school. But my trainers weren't gonna put a stamp on that at all. So we waited the full year.
All right. Now you spent some time at Tommy's House of Hardcore promotion. How do you feel it stacks up with the House of Hardcore where you trained at in the beginning? I mean, is it just different times, same name, or how do you think
Oh,
it's?
I think it's the name of the promotion. I think he based it pretty much on that name. I mean, the school is the school. I know he runs his own school separately. I have not actually attended that school, so I don't really know how he runs it. But the show itself, the federation itself, the organization itself is completely a different animal. But it's actually a different animal than anything you get on TV today at all. Or, between schools or TV shows or wrestling product in general. I think it stands out on its own. I think that's starting to prove itself pretty well.
Now, speaking of House of Hardcore, you just wrestled Stevie Richards at the last House of Hardcore 7. What was it like in the locker room that day? How did it feel to be back at the ECW arena?
Well, actually, I get a little taste. A few months earlier, a wrestling documentary was filmed called The Final Cut. I think it's called Wrestling with Disaster. And part of it was following some guys around, and one of them happened to be Bill Wiles, and I actually wrestled him at the arena a few months earlier. So it was, I mean, just to be back there was different. It was, I mean, the whole place looks completely different. If anybody was there recently, they know what I'm talking about, than what it looked like in the 90s. I mean, it's got some cool production stuff and entrances, and it's cleaned up, and the plumbing works, which is really nice. Anybody remembers the plumbing back in the old days, they know exactly what we're talking about. Tommy show was great. I mean, I think I was originally slated to wrestle C.W. Anderson, which I was really looking forward to. And then Tommy called the Oil Bowl and put me with Stevie, which is even better. I don't want to say better, so I don't want to slight anybody, but me and Stevie have we have a very long history and we're really, really good friends outside the ring. So me and CW are too, but me and Stevie have like a real personal where we hang out a lot and stuff. So the only thing that was crazy about it was we actually didn't call anything except to finish. Not to break kayfabe, but we actually didn't. We called that whole match in the ring, which was pretty cool that we could still go out and do that without having any notice or pretty much anything else going on. So that was pretty special to be able to do that and just listen to the crowd and just play with the crowd. And it's the first match too, so they were hot anyway. So it was a really fun match to do, and it was good to go out there and both of us being in our 40s now to prove that we could still do a match like that. So it was awesome, definitely.
All right, so let's go back in time a little bit. Prior to your training for ECW, what was the moment maybe that, I don't know, do you remember the moment where you said, I want to be a professional wrestler, or how you got into being a fan of pro wrestling?
Yeah, I was always a fan. I grew up single mother. She worked a lot, and I was always with my great aunt. Would be with me on the weekends while my mother went to work, and we'd watch it on her she had a little 13-inch like black and white TV in her apartment, and we'd always watch all that old stuff. But it wasn't until I saw Randy Savage, which is apropos, considering he just got announced for the Hall of Fame. But it wasn't until I saw him that everything just in me was like, wow. The guy had a look. He was fast. He was different at times. He wasn't an overly huge guy, and he was fast, and he could come off the top rope, and he did high flying stuff, which was innovative at the time. And just how obnoxious and egotistical and everything just was like it just set me off. I think, wow, I don't just want to be a wrestler. I want to be him. So as I grew up and went, back then too, it's, younger people, it's hard for them to understand. Like, there was no internet. There wasn't a wrestling school in every block. It was still very, very, very hard to get in, to find to find somewhere. So the opportunity didn't present itself until like 95, 96 for me when I found the House of Hardcore in Long Island.
Okay, now you mentioned Randy Savage, but have you gotten to work with anybody that you were a fan of growing up?
Oh yeah, I've been around. I mean, so many people. The funny part was when after November 96, when we did the Team Taz thing, my next thing was actually Raw, where we did the ECW invasion angle, and people may remember the Sabu jumping off the R and all that. But the first person I saw walking the building was Gorilla Monsoon, and I was a huge, 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 huge Gorilla fan. And he was awesome, very welcoming and everything. But I couldn't get over how big he was either. You bouncing, you don't realize that he's actually a monster in his own right. But even the ECW locker rooms, I watched on TV before I went to the school, so I was a fan of a lot of those guys too. And just to be able to be in a locker room with them and eventually work in a ring with a lot of those guys, like Tommy and Taz and Shane and all those guys was an honor and a great compliment to my career and the work I put in.
All right, early in your ECW career, you were paired with Roadkill, and I think it's safe to say that you two weren't exactly cut from the same mold. But how did you two get paired together? Is there any funny story behind that?
Yeah, actually, we were classmates, and it's a funny story. I always tell people none of us liked each other in the school. None of us, we just didn't get along. Like, not that we were enemies, but we just, it was always, we were, that whole school was like a natural, just this state of loose competition, and none of us really liked Chetty because he was Taz's cousin, and we just none of us got along. But one day it was in the Wildwood, New Jersey Convention Center, which is ironically my favorite place to visit in New Jersey when I'm going down the beach. We were doing pre-match stuff, before the show, before the doors opened, workouts, and Tracy Smiles was always running workouts, and me and Roadkill just were wrestling these two guys, I guess, that were trying to get in for a tryout or whatever, and they were trying to, I guess would shoot or imply their will, and me and Roadkill weren't having it. We just were like, what, F you guys, we went to the school, we know what you're trying to do, and we ate their lunch. And Paul actually saw that, and he said there was some chemistry there, and we just kind of started working a lot of house shows and stuff together before they could come up with actual gimmicks for us. So, the beginning was going to be, kind of me with this thuggish guy, and he was going to be my muscle, and then the movie Boogie Nights came out, and I was actually going to be Dirk Doring, named after Dirk Diggler. And then week after that started, Val Venus came out. So people would actually argue that Paul came with the Dirk Diggler idea and kind of pitched it to WWE as to put on one of their guys, because I think at this point everybody knows Paul, and Paul was working with them a long time before he was working with them. And the Roadkill, Al Snow had just saw Kingpin. And he goes, that guy, because Roadkill was like a Louisiana creek walker at the time, and Al Snow said, that guy should be Amish. And we just kind of built everything from that on. So instead of me being a porn star, I just became like a degenerate partying pervert, and I had this straight-laced Amish guy with me. And I think that's really what made it work. I think, the wrestling world's seen a million flamboyant guys with sunglasses proclaiming to be womanizers, but I don't think if there was Roadkill to play off of that, it wouldn't have worked as well. It just would have been generic and vanilla. I think it was the offsetting of the gimmicks inside and outside of the ring, actually, which caused that kind of natural friction and made it all work.
Now, you were paired with Roadkill, and you also had Miss Congeniality, who went on to be Lita as your manager. What did your thoughts of Lita back then?
Awesome. We got along famously right from the start, and again, it was one of those things where me and her got along very well, and there was friction with her and Roadkill, and I think that played off on screen too. We were all like peas in a pod. We on the same schedule, went to the gym together, ate the same foods. We got along very, very well. It was a little bit sad to see her go because we didn't know, what the future was. Nobody knew what she was going to take off into. I don't think even she had, she probably had aspirations of being great, obviously, but I don't think anybody predicted what would happen. And for me and Roadkill, that was a little bit of uncertainty because we didn't know exactly what we were going to do either, because we had that nice chemistry set up, and then it was gone, and we didn't recapture that with Elektra at all. So, it was weird, but at the same time, that was a great plateau for us right there to reach, and then we just had to find a way to break through it.
All right. By all accounts, ECW was a crazy place to be back in its heyday, but what is the craziest thing you ever witnessed in the ECW locker room? Is there anything you could share with the fans out there?
Geez, I had about 18,000 stories just popped in my head. There was some pretty good backstage fights. I think there were some pretty good ones. There was a lot of other stuff that I just can't share. But here's a good one. There's two. I'll share you real quick. One of them is just good, and one of them is quick and funny more than anything. But one time Sandman was getting very boisterous. I know that surprised a lot of people that he was loud and obnoxious, and he had bet Chris Chetty $200 that Chris couldn't put him on his back in less than a minute. And they were back and forth talking, and it got very serious, and it got up to about $775, I think. And Chris goes, "I'll even up the ante. I'll let you put me in a hold, and I'll still put you on your back." And saying, "No way!" And sure enough, Chris got him down in like 15 seconds. And it got physical a little bit, and Chris got so mad he walked away and he didn't take the money, and I got mad that I didn't take the money. So I figured we could use that to parlay into a nice little night on the town. But just like stuff like that always happened. But there was one. The other one real quick was on a house show, believe it or not, which to people who do not know, that's the shows or live events they call them now, where there's no TV. The Baldies were wrestling, I guess, New Jack, and they did that whole spiel. And I think the story was Angel came running in the back and he had one of them hot dog tongs stuck in his rear end.
Oh.
So as a rib, New Jack stuck Angel in the rear end with a pair of hot dog tongs and got him in there pretty good, where they were, kind of just sticking out of his big meaty rear end. So. But there was always there's so many crazy things I can get into and stuff that's just not even close to PG. It's not even funny. But you guys get the picture on that just by me saying, just by giving me that little nugget. You guys can kind of draw the rest of the. But I'll say this: before Taz, Perry, and Bubba had left for greener pastures, nothing went on. It was, believe it or not, it was a very, very well-policed locker room. And after those guys, one was like the principal at school. And I'll leave it at that.
Now, you just kind of hit on something that we were going to talk about, but the names of your moves are, they're not PG. Who came up with the names like Pearl Necklace, the Panty Dropper, and the G-Spot?
I came up with some of them, and believe it or not, a lot of people don't know this, Joey Styles came up with a lot of them. I came up with the G-Spot sweep, the bareback, and the Wham Bam Thank You Ma'am. Joey came up with the Pearl Necklace, the Panty Drop Elbow, and our finish. We were going to call our finisher the Lancaster Lust, and Joey called the Heart Foundation Heart Attack Clothesline. We did the Lancaster Lariat Lust, and then went right to our name, to Buggy Bang. So he actually came up with a lot of as much as, and I came up with Anaconda too, which. It's just to kind of draw a legend to my own self. But believe it or not, Joey Styles came up with almost just as many names as I did. A lot of people don't even realize that. So, and like you said, Joey and Cyrus were always very awesome. One of my most underrated all-time pairings as announcers, and they were always around us, asking us what we wanted to get over, what we wanted to talk about, if there's anything we wanted to, talk about, get them over on pay-per-view or move names, and they were very involved in that. And Joey, I think he had fun to come up with some names too, and a couple were ad-libs, because I would just do something like an elbow. I was just going to do an elbow, and it turned into a panty drop elbow. So, so Joey was just about as much responsible for coming up with some of the names as I was.
All right. As ECW started to gain momentum, you and Roadkill were becoming a success, even winning the ECW tag titles. Unfortunately, it was shortly after that ECW closed its doors. Did you at least get to enjoy the moment, or was it short-lived because of ECW folding?
No, it's funny. We were I guess slated or penciled in or whatever to win those belts long before we won them, and a lot of times they just changed it at the last minute. I remember we were supposed to win them in Mississauga, Canada. We did a huge show out there, and it was a huge house, and they wanted something to pop the fans with big, so they were gonna have us win, and I think we changed it right before we went out, and we had to change the finish basically in the gorilla position, which is for everybody else behind the curtain before you act while your music's actually hitting. And that was tough, because we were, we thought we were going to win them, and and I understand that it's a work, it's staged or written in a script or whatever, but to win a title still it means the company has belief that you can hold a title, and they feel confident that you can draw enough money for the company. So winning a title is technically scripted, but it's also an accomplishment too, because it means the company believes in you. So You can look at it those kinds of ways, but we that was tough for us because we were excited all day, but we made sure on the way to the ring that we wanted to make sure that we didn't fail any kind of test that we thought we might have been given, and we wanted to make sure that we can take that kind of experience and still, have a really, really great match, and that's what it's really all about, and we did that. But when we did win them, now I don't think it was any kind of it wasn't any less special because it was at the end. It was more special because we worked so hard and we were finally getting a shot to do something. Plus, at that time, we didn't have any idea what was in store a couple months later. So it was every bit as special as it should be for anybody in that position.
Can I just say that it sounds like the gorilla position sounds like a move you would have had back in ECW?
Well, I mean, I was a smaller guy, but yeah, I know where you're going. Maybe not King Kong, maybe Mighty Joe Young, but yeah, or maybe even Caesar from Planet of the Apes. But I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Okay, good. Now, you've been pretty outspoken in interviews before talking about the infamous bounce checks. Were you ever a victim of one of those Heyman bounce checks?
Not one of them. Lots of them. No, I two ends of the spectrum too. It happened early on, in I think I want to say 98, maybe early 99, a little bit, not as much, and then at the end, probably about 10, at least I would say 8 to 12 checks worth. And it got to the point where I would walk into my bank and the tellers would just look at me and go, "Really? You're really going to try to pass? You're really going to try to put that through the glass here?" And this is a true story. A lot of us, they were written from the Bank of New York, and we would carpool. And I remember it would be me, Chetty, and Randy, the sound guy, and Bill Wiles, and Jack Victory, and Nova, and Simon Diamond, and Dormery. We all take the 3 or 4 cars, and we go right straight to the bank where the checks were cut. And they'd have to cash them because they were written from the bank, and it got to the point where they just wouldn't cash them because there was no fund, and it was bad. It was bad for a very long time, right at the end there, and there's no two ways about it. And like I said, I was a victim of it, but I wasn't concerned. I thought they'd make good on them, but at the same time, I also had a lot of money saved, so. There was a guy, though, that needed those checks and depended on those checks because they had alimony payments or car payments or house payments or whatever it was, and they were missing those payments. And that was a stressful time for a lot of guys. So, it's unfortunate.
Well, when you look back at that time in ECW, do you think of your time in ECW as a whole as something positive, or do you kind of wish that you would have tried to go to a different promotion when this stuff was going on?
No, I never looked at it as anything but positive. It was the greatest days of my life. Besides my children being born. At that time being a young man and in my 20s and having some money to kind of and getting paid to do what I love and go around the country was and to get a unique view of how the world works, let alone wrestling, it's something that nobody could take away from me. At the same time, it was just a different place. It was just a different animal. I can't explain that enough. When I finally got to WWE, it was, and this is not a knock on WWE, but I don't think a lot of guys were prepared for the culture shock. It's more cutthroat, it's more business, it's more serious, it's more, it's more of a job, where ECW was more of, even everything, the call times. ECW, you have to be at the building for 5 o'clock. WWE, you have to be there between 12 and 1. It was just, you could see the difference. People stayed out late. They partied later. It was just a looser environment, and it wasn't as political and cutthroat. I mean, there was, but it wasn't as bad. And for the most part, everybody seemed to like each other, and there wasn't as much backstabbing going on. And I don't think a lot of people were prepared for that in WWE or the WWE ECW. But at the same time, I thought while I was there, me and Roadkill and I should say, we're going to be there. We had signed contracts. We thought we'd be around for, I had signed for 3 years. Roadkill had signed for 5. So I thought eventually somebody would come knocking, and hopefully, we would talk about, exploring that option. Unfortunately, it didn't happen while we were there. We had to wait a little bit down the road. So, but no, ECW was my heart and soul, and even the bounce checks part, all that stuff, and all the kind of stuff we went through would never take away how special it was to all of us.
Sure, and ECW left its mark on the world of professional wrestling as many other promotions started a quote unquote hardcore style. How did it feel to be a part of this worldwide phenomenon? And was there, how was it with the guys backstage too? With you guys picking up, being like a number 3 big name hitting the TV. What was it like being backstage basically as ECW was picking up steam?
ECW shows or other wrestling promotions that you're talking about?
Yeah, basically, how did it feel, being a part of, ECW back then when everybody else started copying you guys now? Like,
oh yeah, it was great. I mean, like I never took, a lot of us didn't take ourselves too seriously either. Sal, being Big Sal Graziano, we actually, little backstory, we lived in the same town. We went to rival high schools. We actually played against each other in rival football teams in high school, which is kind of funny. We didn't know that until we got to ECW. But we were always going to the mall and hanging out. I remember we went into the GameStop and we were going over the ECW catalog for the video game that came out, and we were asking the guy, about it. And they had no idea who we were, no idea. And Big Sal's, he's a monster, and he still had no clue. And they were like, "Oh, this guy sucks. Sean, he's that guy." It was just funny to us, but we never took ourselves too seriously. But to watch the other companies kind of take that style at the time, people were, "Well, you think the Attitude Era is stealing your stuff, or the hardcore WCW?" We never thought of it that way. We just thought that, the way we thought was the same way we ran our shows. WWE, WCW, a lot of places run the shows where you have a slow build, you have a slow match, and then this match and that match, and it slowly builds steam. ECW was, well, first match, we're going to raise the bar, we're going to set the bar, and we'll see who can top it. And that's where we worked every night. So when people started mimicking and imitating stuff, we're like, okay, well, you can have that, so now we're going to do this. And we never looked at it as stealing or thievery or any of that. We looked at, okay, now we're going to up the bar a little bit for everybody else.
Nice.
And we're going to keep doing that to see who can top it. And if you've ever seen some of the Rob Van Dam, Jerry Lynn matches, you're going to realize really quickly that nobody was top.
Exactly.
Now, the ECW legacy lives on today, and a lot of promotions have tried to capitalize on ECW by having reunion shows. Do you think that those are good for the business, or that they should just kind of let ECW rest in peace?
I think I'm mixed on it. Some days I'm like, well, they should let it rest in peace, and some days I'm like, it's just not going to. I think WWE did a very good job at trying to kill it finally, and it just didn't die. And I just don't think it's going to. That being said, I don't know if when I'm in my 70s, I want to hear about there's a reunion show and then Enter Sandman hits and somebody wheels, some ancient ancestor wheels out his urn, you know what I mean? And Enter Sandman playing, and, it's funny, but it probably could happen. But, 'cause I think the older most guys get, it's you could just tell it's not something you can do on a whole show scale anymore. But I think House of Hardcore, Dreamers, House of Hardcore, remember houseofhardcore.net, not .com. If you go to .com, you get something different than what you're bargaining for. Trust me. Pays good homage to what ECW was, and he puts some ECW stuff in spurts there, where you get an ECW match from guys that he feels can still do it, or Sandman run-in, or a couple other things that happen. So I think he does it perfectly, where he fits it in with what he's trying to do and where he's trying to go with guys that are in their prime and some guys that are up and coming. So I think it's a great mix of what's going on. And if you want to see an ECW kind of thing, that's the best place to see it. I'm not just saying that because I'm part of it. I'm just saying it because he knows what he's doing and he integrates it the best, and the best part and the best version you're going to get out of it from anywhere else. You're going to get from House of Hardcore because Tommy knows what the guys are capable of and what they can do. Other than guys just trying to cash in on whoever is still alive, they're trying to put them out there and guys are booking Sandman and do 20-minute matches after ECW. I mean, come on, they'll be the first to tell you, I'm not going to wrestle a 20-minute classic. Let me hit an entrance, slams over to the king, drink a beer, and leave. But people weren't getting that part. So,
when WWE brought ECW back, you were part of some of the shows. Did you and the other ECW talent have high hopes, or did you guys kind of already see the writing on the walls about how it was going?
I think we all had high hopes at first, and I think the writing was on the wall fairly quickly. But we somehow figured, I think it went from having high hopes to kind of wishing to, oh yeah, it's what's going to happen. And then after a while, they kind of let us know in not so many words that this was going to happen, and that was difficult for me to deal with, because I was presented with an opportunity to do something else within the company, and I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to do anything else but wrestle. I wasn't willing to stop wrestling. I didn't want to stop being a wrestler, and I think it was difficult too because it wasn't going to happen there, and I was angry, and I rebelled by just gave up a little bit. I was unmotivated. Me and Stevie Richards have a joke to this day about unbooked catering, where you're brought into shows every week and you're not being used. So just eat catering. And I ate it, man. I ate it all. Cobbler, I didn't even get my hands on. I just come home and I was just being to my girlfriend at the time, my wife now. And it was weird because I had the job that I wanted. I had made it to the place where I dreamed of making it to as a kid. And the ironic part was I was the most miserable and unhappy I've ever been in my life. And that was concerning, and the day I got released, I wasn't happy about it. Like, people want to say I wasn't depressed about it either. I was just kind of indifferent. I joked about it. I remember going to Target that day and I was buying a TV so, we could play our Xbox or whatever. And the girl was trying to talk me into, up from a 30 or 42 inch to a 60 inch or something. And I was like, listen, lady, I don't know if you read the internet today, but I'm on my 90 days today. I just got my release papers, baby. I gotta pull money here and pinch corners kind of. And she was just looking at me like I was nuts. And my brother was there at the time. He's like, how can you joke about it? And I go, what am I supposed to do? So, like I said, it was where I wanted to be, and I was the most unhappy I've ever been. So go figure that out.
Well, now everyone listening today knows about the WWE Network. We like to ask our guests to either give us their favorite match of theirs that's on the network, or their favorite match not involving them that's on the network. So I'll let you decide what you want to tell us.
My favorite one that's not of me would be Savage Steamboat, or even WrestleMania 4 when Savage won the world title. Those were two of my favorite matches. They were just very special for me. Watching as a kid, just blown away by it. Savage Warrior, also WrestleMania 7, was because of Savage's retirement. I do the quotes. Retirement outfit was blew me away. Match of mine, on there right now currently, probably Heatwave 2000 or Massacre on 34th Street would be my two favorites. Until the Mississauga match goes up with us and the FBI from Canada on the TV show, that'll be my favorite of all time. But it'll be those two, or one of those two. I go back and forth on them. As long as it's not guilty as charged 2001. I actually despise that match. But yeah, it would be either Heatwave 2000 or Massacre on 34th Street, just because of Mama Luke's amazing guardrail bump.
Nice. Now, there's a rumor going around the world of pro wrestling that you and Sugar Mask are in cahoots in some sort of way. Do you care to comment on this?
I've heard this. I've heard this rumor. I have picture evidence that it's not true, and I can put that up on any site or a website or a Facebook page. If I got pictures of me and Sugar Mask both celebrating with Van Dam when he won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship from John Cena, so I have a picture of it. But yeah, no, that's my alter ego, and I kind of stole the idea from Curry Man, because when I saw Curry Man, I was so like wowed by it that I told Chris Daniels, I was, wow, that's the craziest thing I've ever seen. Like it's I can't even tell you how much of a mark I am for Curry Man. So I kind of ripped it off a little bit, but and then me and Stevie Richards actually started doing some vignettes, and it's funny because we were told to come up with an idea while we were in WWE for a .com show, and we came up with True Life Balls Mahoney stories, which were going to be based on a ripoff of the Charlie Murphy stories from Chappelle's show. And they thought that was the dumbest idea they ever heard of. So we went and filmed one as Sugar Mask, reenacting a story where Balls claimed that he killed a great white shark in the Atlantic Ocean. So if you go on TV and YouTube, you can see the Sugar Mask reenactment of Balls Mahoney killing a great white shark, and the story is actually accurate to how he tells it happened, which is absolutely the most absurd story you've ever heard in your life.
All right. Now we're at the part of the show we call the lightning round. So, first thing that comes to your mind whenever we ask you these questions. All right.
Can I curse? No, I'm like, I'll figure it out.
Okay. Best thing about ECW.
The boys.
Roadkill.
I almost said a word that starts with D and ends with Ick. But angry.
Okay. Paul Heyman.
Liar.
Favorite person to wrestle.
Chris Chetty.
Favorite adult film actress.
Taylor Wayne.
Least favorite adult film actress.
Jasmine St. Clair.
WWE.
Entertainment.
All right, well that was a little lightning round for you, but Danny, where can the fans keep up with you today? I know that right now the whole world is about social media and all that stuff. Where can the fans find you?
I have a Danny Doring Facebook page. I get on it when I can. I basically made it because somebody made a fake one and was posting posts that I was racist posts, which was going to end with me committing suicide or something. So I had to make one just to make one so nobody else can pose as me. But I don't keep up with it much. But at Twitter, on Twitter, I should say, at Sugar Mask, my alter ego again. So that's basically what I do all my social media at Sugar Mask. And if you see anybody on there and you talk to anybody on Twitter, I'm very, very hands-on, and I try to answer as many at messages or at questions as I can or comments. Even if you come and try to take a shot at me, I'm more than willing to fire back at you and embarrass you. So, but I'm talking to everybody. If anybody's a legit question, wants to ask me anything, I get to them all. So, if you want any other information, any kind of questions or statements or whatever, please shoot them at me at Sugar Mask.